My name is Nelda Reyes. I am an RLA teacher at RYMS in San Juan. And I as well have a master's degree in educational technology, and I'm currently pursuing my doctorate degree in curriculum and instruction with a focus in educational technology. So, as you can tell, I am like an advocate of using technology in the classroom. It really facilitates not only my students' learning, but it facilitates my teaching and my planning. So since I started using it several years ago, of course, it advances throughout the years or as we go along, but the use of technology in the classroom is amazing. So my presentation will be on project-based learning and how I integrate project-based learning with podcasting and sustainability. Since the district is going, into sustainability and it's huge now. I've actually used it since I was an elementary teacher, and since then till now, I mean, I've integrated it even in schools that I work at that are not really, pushing it that much. And hopefully this year we will. So moving on, of course, if you haven't registered, go ahead and register. The check-in code is TECH23 with tech in all capitals. And this is a workshop number. So what is podcasting? What is podcasting? What is project-based learning? So project-based learning, I actually went to a conference and somebody mentioned it being called, let me see, it says me to admit. Somebody mentioned it being called problem-based or problem project-based learning, which to me was amazing because what I use it, or the way I use it in my classroom, is that they do have to solve a problem since I link it to sustainability and the 17 sustainable goals. So let me see. Project-based learning, PBL, is a teaching method in which students learn by actively engaging in real-world problems and personal meaningful projects. So when I use my when I do my project-based learning in my classroom, my students, have to solve a real-world problem. So just a little, relapse or touch on the way I see project-based learning and how it's differently integrated in a traditional classroom versus a traditional classroom. So in traditional classroom, we normally stand up there, we lecture, the kiddos, receive the information. In project-based learning or problem project-based learning, of course, the teacher assigns the problem that we want for them to solve, or we assign them a problem project, and it's student-led. So that's another thing I love, that I really prepare like 5% of what my students do. In the traditional classroom, students memorize and then forget it. They memorize it for the test and then it's gone. In the project-based learning, I've noticed that the students will engage into it more because they're creating the actual questions and problems and what they have to solve. And so the retention of the content and the information they're receiving is amazing. Of course, in this one, we assign the problem to illustrate how it is used, and then we have them practice 1,000,001 times and send it for homework. And the other one, project-based learning, students explore, they create, they refine. And as you can notice down here, it's actually my students have to submit their project-based learning through podcasting, through video, through coding. They do use a lot of Scratch. Anything that's technology-based is how they present it. I do have some that still present it in the trifolds, and of course I take them, but I kind of biasly push technology use. So project-based learning is an inquiry-based teaching method that engages students in developing solving real-world problems, which is, of course, the whole focus on sustainability. And these are some of the things, that I've noticed that I've seen will work with my students. Like it's student driven, of course, so they make questions, they make their own choices. I give them the first topic and then that's it. After that, they select their own topic. You will gradually see that by allowing them to do this, the passage or genre of the week that you're actually using with your kiddos or you're doing that week, they'll tend to lean towards that just because it's easier for them. So if you're doing informational, they'll try to do something informational. If they're doing fiction, they'll try to link some real world problem to that fiction piece that they're studying or that you're embedding in your lesson. Project-based learning, it encourages, of course, social emotional learning. Provides opportunities for them to work in groups, which is huge. I love small group in my classroom from day one until like about 2 days before the STAR. they're still in groups. So my smallest group that I have them in is 3, because I love the way that they, collaborate and discuss and everything in their groups. Um, but of course, it's a lifelong learning. So a decision thinking process. The one I used to use other ones that I found out there, and I created my own. However, I this is my second year being an Eco Rice teacher. For those of you that have not heard about Eco Rice, I actually have one of my co-ambassadors, because this last year I became an ambassador. So this is my first year as an Eco Rice ambassador. She will be presenting on Eco Rice and how we can get funding for that. I, however, will touch a little bit on it. It's amazing. I mean, they're throwing out money to PSJA, so it's $25,000 that's out there for us to, just the kids do all the work, like I said, through project-based learning. You submit the project for them, and then that's it. You just wait, sit back, and wait for the money. It's got to be something having to do with environmental or sustainability. And I'll give you an example of some of the ones that my kiddos did. The following are the 5 key steps of integrating project-based learning. So of course, if you follow the Eco Rice model, they use the identify, explore, create, refine, and share. And then the wheel keeps going around, because they create one project and then it's another one, another one, and another one. So it just keeps turning. This is Eco Rice. They identify, explore, create, refine, and share. And then this is what I basically give my students. So these are the main 3 that they will see my board, with the identifying, the perspective, things that they have to do under them. So on the first one, they have to understand the problem. They identify a problem. They identify what they already know about the problem, or what they need to know. They define a problem statement, and then they go on to explore the curriculum. They have to gather information. They share the information, of course, in their small group, and then they generate possible solutions. Then, of course, they have to find a resolution to the problem by determining the best fit solution. It depends if you want for them to do, and this is some of the parts that I control. It's either a fast turn research, or it's a year-long research. However long. I have one that's going on right now for 2 years, and it's a 3-year research, which I started with my 6th graders 2 years ago. So I, of course, linked, and I can share the presentation with you all if you all want. I linked the whole description that I give to my students, because I do teach each indicator under the main one, and how they're supposed to go about it, how they define a problem statement, how they define a problem, what the graphic organizers, they can use the KWL chart. So I do give them a lot of resources. They don't have to use them if they don't want to, but they're there just if they want to use them. So, oh, it's this one. Let me see. So it's this one, and then each identifier has its information under it. And then I give them a little, you can go to PBL Works, you can use different I do give them resources, and all my resources have links on them. So they're able to go into the resources. And then of course, they do they actually create the problem. So these are some of the projects that I've done with my students, and you need to understand that my projects are ongoing. I start week 1 teaching sustainability for the first 3 weeks. I teach sustainability to my kiddos, all 17. And then they on week 4, they like take off with project 1. Project 1 is completely guided by me, and I normally let them, the only thing they select is that they're able to select what they want to focus on. And the entire class does not have to focus on the same thing. Of course, if they work on small group, I have had some kiddos that they want to go independent and they go on their own, and they're like, nope, nobody wants to do what I want to do, so I'm going to do my thing. I'm like, all right, but they still have the same work. What I try to teach them is that if they worked in small groups, it's less work that they all have to do, so they share the work. So on this one, my students created a school community garden, and there's also a template that my students follow here. I can share it. I can share it with you all as well if you all would want to. They have to. My first one is campus based. So it's something small. I tell them we're going to figure out a problem that you have to solve campus based. Can't go out into the community. It's got to be campus based. What's an issue that we have on campus that we can solve? And you'll see that if they find a small campus-based issue, they will eventually throughout the year be able to expand that project or that issue and make it community-based, global-based, and that's where your sustainability goals come in. So they identify a problem that's campus-based. They started at the campus that we had no garden at Isaguirre Middle School. We currently still don't, but we do have a lot of kiddos that are coming from Garza Peña, Canto Elementary. Some of these elementaries, they come with that knowledge of having a school garden, and that's something that we're currently in the works of starting one. They're at Isaguirre, and we did get funding for this one. It has no time limit, so even if we didn't build it last year, we didn't create it last year, we can still create it this year. Eco Rice actually granted my kiddos $1,500. They started 750, but I guess they were amazed with their work, so they just gave them 750 and they gave me 750. So I don't really know how that works, but I got a grant through it too, even though I did no work other than submit it for them. It reached my goal here is that I do tell them your project needs to reach either just the class, 50 students at most, or stakeholders, which are administration team and staff there at school, or it can be, like this one, campus population. So 950 was the one that it reached because it is a school garden that they're going to develop. So then I have them tie it into the sustainability goals, as many as they can. My minimum is, of course, two, because they always have to tie into quality education, and they need to understand how doing this kind of projects is only expanding their knowledge and making their the critical thinking skills that this kiddos develop is amazing. I did start sustainability and project based with my college prep students. But now I've noticed that the ones that really, really, really benefit from it are my struggling kiddos, my EB kiddos, my struggling kiddos, my kiddos that are behind, the ones that are low, because it's a different way. It's hands-on learning. So they're very, very engaged versus me giving them a lot of passages and passages and passages. And, they really don't like reading as it is. So I try to engage them a different way, and this has worked amazingly for me. This one, they did link it to, of course, my quality education, and then they did do 4 more. And these are some of the photographs that my kiddos did. They went out there, they identified the problem. The problem was a garden. Then, of course, they have to find a location and pitch it to our principal, right? To see if it's a go. The issue here, and I love it because of those of you that know where Isaguirre is, we're right off 495. So this area that they identified here is visible to 495. So they said, Miss, we can build it here, we can create it here. And I said, okay, what's the purpose of creating it there? And then, because I never give them an okay, I just tell them like, why this, why this? I'm that kid that turns into the why. They're not asking the whys now, and now it's me. So they tell me, oh, well, because if it can turn into community based, it'll be attracting to the people that pass by 495. Maybe we can attract more students. So, I mean, these kids will go into it and delve so much into it, where all I wanted for them to do was figure out an issue that we could fix there at school. And their mind just took them to so many different things that one project can target, not only campus-based, but community-based. It'll raise our population of students. It'll help with attendance. It's amazing. So all of this stuff the kids presented to EcoRice, and EcoRice got them funded. These are some of the things, of course. Once they get funded, you're going to see that these kids want money and they want just funding from everybody. So I do create a lot of donors choose. I do create a lot of Amazon wish lists. They tell me what they want for me to create. I create them for them, and then we just sit back and see if they get funded. So far right now, I've had quite a few of them funded. This ones were actually funded through Donors Choose, and this one was funded through Donors Choose. So they created a Donors Choose project, and they actually asked for the project to be for our special ed inclusion classrooms. So they actually got 5 of these boxes, and that's one of the most amazing things to watch when those packages come in and they get to open them. So they love it. They love to see those packages. Each package had a set of this ones, and we create, as you can see, there's 3 right here. One of them has 2 sets, so it was 2 sets for the inclusion classrooms, and we kept 2 of them. This ones are other things that they asked for. They asked for stones and decorative, because they're going to create a walkway They also got that one because they wanted to start a hydroponic system inside my classroom. And I said, okay, we didn't get it till the end of the year. They did plant, but we didn't have enough time for the plants to grow. So that's the one that we're starting next year. This one they got through donors choose as well. We asked for soil. They send the soil. And I mean, you need to understand as teachers, we already purchase a lot of things for our classrooms. This was totally free. Like I put zero money into it other than, I mean, if you take into account the light that I use, but I normally create them in front of them there at school. So this, of course, they went into Miss, we can get a lot of bottles. Let's just recycle the drinking water bottles from the classroom because they're throwing them in the recycling center bin. And I said, okay, so then I create a bin for them. And it's like I'm telling you, I gave them one task and this kid's expanded so much. So this one actually got them to go into the San Juan wetlands, and we got invited through the city of San Juan and a partner that collaborated with our one of our APs, which is Miss Dueñas, and she's our contact person. So I love the field trip because they got to go there and they got to see a lot of the areas of the wetlands. However, I guess we're not in a drought really, but it was dry. So they're like, where's the water? I said, well, when it rains, it'll become a wetland. So anyways, Santana Wildlife Refuge was there. And of course, they get to experience a lot of things that some of these kiddos don't experience. The individual from Santana Wildlife Refuge actually asked a couple of my kiddos who had been to Santana, and like 5 hands went up, and we actually took like about 20 kids, 15, 20 kids, but only like 5 of them had gone. So of course, Ms. Reyes being Ms. Reyes, we actually took them to Santa Ana Wildlife Refuge. So that was pretty cool. The food bank was there. So of course they tied it into how their garden at school could be community based now. And one of the kiddos had researched how our Rio Grande Valley food bank there in FAR is running low in supply. So Miss, we can grow, we can donate. We can have a market, in our parking lot, have the community come and get vegetables, or we could sell them and fundraise for ourselves and, just buy more stuff. And I'm like, okay. So write it all down, like write it all down. So they do. And all of this is stuff that they submit to their Eco Rights funding. Then, of course, this is one of my favorite ones. That is Miss Alisa Barrios, one of our former Garza Peña students, and now she's at Izaguirre. But when they went into the VR thing, I'm like, oh, this is nice technology integration, right? Well, now at the end of the year, they wanted to create a VR project, and I'm like, for what? What are we going to do with the VR, stuff, guys? And then they tied it in to construction. They tried it into construction. We do partner with South Texas College AEDT program, which is an architectural engineering program. And they said we can actually go in there and see how they're using environmental friendly material and take those walkthroughs through the buildings that they're creating. And they did get a chance to do that with one of their architectural classes. So they were able to take a VR tour as the student was actually creating the floor plan. So those things are amazing because I'm also an advocate of college readiness and how we can get them college ready since 6th grade. So I start telling them, if you don't know what your pathway is right now, you're kind of like a little behind. So let me show you how many things there are out there, to offer our students. And all of this is done through my rotation station. So it's not taking time away from my actual lessons. So, and they research everything. So my second project, of course, I gave them one of my rotation stations is a Nearpod, New CLA, Mayan. So they get to select one of the ones that they want to go into. And one of my students read a small passage, which is actually this one in the bottom. And I linked the passage on there, so if y'all want to see it, I can share it with you all. But it was talking about how in the Great Pacific Patch, there's all the plastic that we throw out there, and even if you throw it, it falls out of your trash can, or they throw it out it ends up in these two patches right here. And it's like a whirlpool that it doesn't let it go anywhere. So it's been collecting there, and it's I mean, you can't even, it's massive that you can't even measure it anymore, because it's not only extended side to side or north to south, it's like the depth of it is like feet down. So my students did a lot of extensive research on this, And then they say, you know what, we want to create a project. I said, all right. So they actually created a degradation station, because I told them, before we create the project, you need to tell these people at EcoRise, how are we going to use the funding? What is it going to be used for? What is the importance of this funding? What are you going to learn from it? So they created this degradation station, and my only thing was get stuff that 95% of the stuff that they put in that station had to be stuff that we throw away there at school. So things that they use on a daily basis. And amazingly enough, these kiddos did not know that that napkin right there takes a long time to decompose. Like, it doesn't, nothing happens to it. What came from this was that I actually said, if it is hot outside, then you have to turn on a little light that's on top, and it's simulating my sun. Again, I didn't pay for any of this. Everything was donated through Donors Choose, Amazon wish list. We bought it through funding through EcoRice. However, they did go into the Google apps, and a lot of my kiddos downloaded it on their phone. So they would watch the weather the day before, how it was going to be that day, if it was going to be a weekend, if it was going to rain, how much it was going to rain, and then they would actually saturate that water, that dirt, and they would move it around. um, and they would try to simulate what was happening in the atmosphere outside. And then they have, of course, I just, made it, this is where they had saturated. One day we had like a lot of rain. So they like went in there and soaked it. If you can see some of the kids, one of my kids, I don't know who it was, but took out a gum and put it in there. And then, of course, I made it into a lesson, and I told them, for those of us that like to chew gum and then swallow it, this is what's happening in your stomach. So we're not supposed to be, and then I went into a whole lesson, and they did actually, rebuttal with a piece of tape, because I do use tape in my classroom. And then they told me, let's see how long it takes for it to decompose. And of course, it didn't. Bag of chips. So there's different things that they put on there that they say we could have recycled the cardboard. This is plastic that we could have recycled. This is what's actually ending up at that Great Pacific Patch, and nothing happened to it. I mean, this it's been ongoing, and it's still there. Like, nothing's happened to any of the stuff that's in that station. And then, of course, all of this created that little, recycling bin inside my classroom. So anytime they would see plastic in the hallways or anything, they'd pick it up and they'd come bring it in. I do have a couple of teachers that actually found out about it, and then we shared it on our teams, and I just started getting a bunch of bottles. So then we said, what do we do with our bottles? So what we did is that we started planting on them. That one, actually, this one that they created, created a partnership with Texas A&M Kingsville, their ag department. And I'm very proud of this one, because my son is actually a student there. But the kiddos are able to learn about soil science, agricultural science, environmental science. It must be an engaging meeting, because we do meet with them twice a month, and it's through Zoom. It's through Zoom. We don't, go over there, or they don't come. But it's through Zoom. They meet with any representative from the Texas A&M Ag Department. It can be a student or a professor, and it has to be an engaging meeting. So before the students can call a meeting, they have to have questions that they're going to ask. And it's got to be part of a research study, and it's got to be either an ongoing or completed study that the students at Texas A&M are currently going through or have gone through, and that we can probably replicate in our campus or in our district. So they learn a lot about wild game, ranches, pests, and how there's pesticide alternatives. They learn about the farmland. Our current one that they learned about last year was GIS and the use of drones, and how they're using them for pattern migration, types of land topography, types of vegetation in any given area, land that's being utilized for urbanization, areas that they can colonize or build on, and that are not allowed to be built on. So this is one of the last projects that they did with them, and it was right before we got out for summer, so the project hadn't been completed. So I'm very, very excited about showing them the last part of it. But the students at Kingsville actually traveled to Florida, University of Florida, and Florida International University is what it's called, and they did a study on basil leaves. and the solidity of water in basil leaves and how it affects the plant and what the plant does in order to try to combat the salinity and water. So they, of course, provide a lot of images for my students. That is my son right there, and he shows them, hey, you don't want to sit in an office with a coat and tie? Then you go do what I do. And I mean, he does it in short. So my son is not a behind the desk student, employee. So he loves what he does. Then about the questions, he does provide for them several questions that he might ask himself as a researcher, and he provides them for them. So that he says, you can't use my same questions, but I gave you some examples of what I asked myself when I'm actually creating and going through my project or my research study. And then of course he does, more stuff as to where, yeah, say, the study finishes, and then what's he gonna do with those basil leaves? He of course freezes them, and he shows them the freezer and everything when they do the Zoom. He shows them what he does in the lab, and as you can see, he's still in shorts. And then, of course, he goes through the whole process. And what this turned into that little liquid that the kids are going to see that he's going to actually study it. Another thing, we did do a partnership with San Antonio, Texas, or the city of San Antonio through the engineering department. Their engineering department, because my godson is there. My godson does GIS for the city of San Antonio, and he just focuses on the development part of San Antonio. So this is what my son showed them to the students from Texas A&M Kingsville about soil sampling and what they do with the soil. So of course, as long as it's outside, then my kids want to go outside. But we tell them if there's time on Friday, we'll go ahead and do it. Or I will sometimes go with them for lunch, or we'll bring them in early or something, and then we'll do some soil sampling. Or of course after school. This is the ag part of it, and they get to see what they actually do with the animals. That is my son when he was with USDA, and he shows them how he goes into the farmlands that we have currently here in Rio Grande City and the lower Rio Grande Valley. And of course, that's him. And he shows them how he goes in there, and they capture a Niao guy. And I didn't even know a Niao guy existed till he showed it to us, and how he removes the ticks from the Niao guy. That particular study was about the eradication of cattle fever tick. So the kiddos actually go in there and they see how he removes the ticks and how he studies the ticks in order to create a pesticide that is not he controls them with something that's not a pesticide, because obviously if we're throwing pesticides into our cattle, pues then we're eating the cattle, and so they created something else, which of course he can't disclose to the kids, but it's basically water in a solution that is perfectly safe to the humans, to the environment, and to our livestock. Then this is my third project. Or their third project. I'm very proud of this one, because when they did this one, I said, try to keep it campus based, and they did. They actually created a project for clean air and good health, and their focus was on our unit kiddos, which are, let me see, right there. These are our unit kiddos. And I said, why do you want to focus on the unit kiddos? And they said, well, unlike us, they don't know that they have to cover themselves when they cough or when they sneeze. So we want to help them clean their rooms, to where they don't have to worry, or the spread of the viruses is not that bad, because they have something that's kind of helping them clean that room. They actually submitted a $750 proposal, and they got $1,350 for the air purifiers. Of course, we were not able to purchase for all of sixth grade, which was their target, sixth grade in the 2-unit classrooms, inclusion classrooms, but we were able to purchase one for every sixth grade RLA teacher, since I'm RLA. And then, of course, the 2-unit classrooms got the bigger unit, the bigger units. So these are the 4 teachers that got the oh, I'm missing one. I'm missing myself. 3 teachers and myself. And then, of course, the unit kiddos were shy and they did not want to take a picture with my kids. But later on, the teachers sent me the pictures here so that my kiddos could see, the effect of it. And then the last one, of course, that I didn't even ask them for this one. They created on their own because, again, Ms. Dueñas, one of our APs, actually had some toothbrushes, and then they said maybe we could do care packages, and we said okay. So I said it can't take more, we got to do it within a month, guys, because it's already going to be start testing, and then I do my podcasting after start testing. So it took less than 3 months. It actually took 6 weeks for the kiddos to bring, and the campus itself was very, very helpful in providing product for the kids. They actually targeted those four. This is what they started with, that Ms. Dueñas actually gave to us. And then, of course, it went from that to this, and then it just got bigger and bigger. They were able to create 125 care packages that actually went to the Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley, and some of it went to the Asanam Center, just because I couldn't find how to get into that center until I called somebody. I had already shared about, 75 with the Catholic Charities, so they got the rest. Those are my four main ones that led that project. Of course, you always have, all of my classes work on it, but you always have one main group that, focuses on, okay, this will work, this will not work, this will take too long, we don't need this, we don't. I mean, they wanted to give like t-shirts and towels, and then they said, no, 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 let's bring it down. Something that's more, reasonable or feasible for us to do it in a less amount of time. Um, and I'll go back, because some of those kiddos are some of my active kiddos. I tell them they're not behavioral issues. They just have bad days every day. Some of them all day long. But this, I have noticed, has helped control those outbursts and things, because they're always occupied. Of course, what is sustainability? Sustainability is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This one, I got it from UN World Commission on Environmental and Development, which is one of the websites that I follow, and they give so many resources on sustainability. Our campus, our district, as you all well know, is a sustainability district now. PSJA's main goal for sustainability implementation with our curriculum. And I'm not going to play the video because it is a little lengthy, but I did link it if y'all want to see it. So let me see. Ensure inclusive and quality education for all and promote lifelong learning. I love that PSJ is doing this now. I was part of curriculum writing. In curriculum writing, we're going to try to integrate it on Wednesdays. And it is very feasible. It's doable. Those are the 17 goals that I teach for my students. They really, really don't focus on 17, and they don't focus on 16. So that brings it down to 15. Life underwater, they do a little bit of it, like how the Great Pacific Patch affected the marine life there. And here, of course, and what we're doing to combat it. They normally quality education is one that they normally focus on the top three. And I had some do 5, 6 they didn't focus that much on. 13 is one of the big ones that they focus on. Decent work and economic growth is something that they really, really lean towards. What's another one? Right here, gender equality and reduced inequalities is another big topic with my 6th graders, or our 6th graders last year. I see that every year it's something different that they want to focus on. So this is how I separate my 17 goals. I do give them this chart, and I do have it posted in my classroom, and they have to see how the goals fit in. So for group 1, if it's a faster way to teach it, you would be able to teach 3 at once. And it would, of course, take less time. For group number 2, access to safe conditions, sustainable growth, quality through education, and sustainable partnerships, and of course a holistic climate action, which this one is the one that they really, really like to focus on. They really like to focus on, let me see, on 1, on 2, and on 6. That's like the big buy-in for these kiddos right now. Critical thinking skills, and I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just going to give you an overview. For the first project, I completely guide my students. The second project and on, it's 100% student-led. They research, they create the problem, they create the questions, everything. I'm just there as a resource, and I tell them, okay, guys, let's like the air purifying one. The attendance number that they actually calculated was like, we're going to combat attendance, for like 600 students per 6 weeks. And I'm like, well, let's make it, let's lower it. Let's do 10%. And then, it's more feasible, maybe one student per classroom or five students per grade level, something like that. So they think in a broader aspect of everything that they're creating. So me as a teacher, I kind of like help them and I guide them. This is more feasible. This is more doable. Your funding individuals are going to, this is more believable. This is more, because we don't really have the data. After we create the data next year, pues then of course, if it's 600 students that we help, then we have data to show it. But since they didn't have the data, I told them, let's just do 10% of attendance that we're trying to, help. Equal Rights will give you $700 to $3,000. PSJA, of course, PSJA Education Foundation does from $500 to $2,000. Donors choose. If your project is under $300, it'll the turnaround is maybe within a month or so. We've had some funded within 2 days. It's unlimited amount, but we've noticed that the higher the amount that you're asking on Donors Choose, the less likely it's going to be funded. There are some organizations out there that will, but it takes longer. Amazon Wishlist, of course, unlimited, and local organizations and others that, I search online. So I'll go in there, who's giving, agricultural funding, who's giving funding for schools, who's giving funding for teachers. And I apply for all the grants. And then of course, the ones that I actually get was, I share them with the kiddos. So these are all linked on there. Eco Rights, like I mentioned, is giving out $25,000 that are available for the South Texas region. But yeah, when we went to the training this summer, we're like, yeah, it's for PSJA. So we'll share it with our PSJA, peers. But like I have friends in Edinburgh and stuff like that. But yeah, no, we want to keep the 25,000 for us, because as long as it's all sustainability, environmental, or ag, you'll get the money. Technology integration, of course, like I said. I integrate it in my rotation, so it's not something that takes away from my classes or my lecture or the stuff that I do with my kiddos. It is one of my 6 rotation stations. So the way I do it is that, of course, the podcasting at the end. This is my actual podcasting area, and it's a little corner that I created for my kiddos. I do have the equipment. Of course, the equipment, I did not purchase it as well. It was funded completely through Donors Choose. And this is my goal, my ideal goal of creating some podcasting area for my kiddos, because a lot of them do like to record themselves. They watch a lot of YouTube influencers and how they record, so they want to do live recordings. These are some of the ways that they did it towards the end. This projects in the back is what I do through my enrichment. Whenever I do enrichment, they're for the campus, and they have to create with recyclable material, target the 17 sustainability goals. And of course, they create that, and it becomes part of my artwork, my wall work. So yeah, I'm very proud of the work that the kiddos do. Let me see. Those are some of the podcasting things that they target. They, of course, I have a podcasting channel through Spotify podcasters, but it's private. I don't share it because my kiddos, they can't say the name of the school. They can't give their names. They actually create names for the group, just because if it were ever to get out there, they do touch a lot on topics that, as a teacher and as a mother, I'm like, oh my God, kiddos this young, 11, 12 years old, they have all these issues in their head and all these things that they're thinking about and that they worry about, and we want them, to be productive every day. And they're coming to school with all these, issues already that they're facing. And this is a way of them, expressing themselves and sharing their voice and, what's affecting them. I do listen to it. I do know who the students are, because they have to submit to me with their names and stuff, but not on the podcast. And, if I see that it's something, that needs attention, of course, I forward it. I escalate it. They do talk a lot about air pollution. That one, Injustice, is one of my favorite ones. It actually has a little glimpse of it, where they messed up. And as Novice teachers, I wanted to see that I wanted for them to show that it's not, for them to see that it's not something that you're going to start day one and it's going to be perfect. Like it's taken years to perfect this. And even throughout the year, I do podcasting once every 6 weeks. And by the end of the year, when they do fully podcasting after STAR test, these kids are amazing. They can create and they clip and they insert the transition music, they insert everything in there. I do provide everything for them. Again, I don't pay for anything. I do use Screencastify, and that is one of my donors choose funding that I do. So because it's $95 a year to get the full license for them to be able to edit it. I've noticed, however, that Spotify Podcasters is totally completely free, and they can edit in that one, and they can videotape themselves as well. So one of my favorite things on this one is that they actually have to create their own, they have to select their production team. After trial and error, they kind of lean towards the same students to be their production and their video and stuff. Everybody else that's over here in the background is actually watching their live feed on our monitor, and they're saying, no, move them this way, move them that way. It's true. Yes, I really enjoy participating. Yeah, well, Israel was one of my Israel's an eighth grader now. So yeah, to know that he went through the enrichment in sixth grade and he liked it. And in his enrichment, I did actually comic strip creation, but it's something that they really, really, really it engages them. And on this one, I mean, it's all part of the behavioral. If we're having that issue with trying with classroom management, this is something that really, really I've seen will help the students navigate towards that, being attentive. Because if they don't finish their work, they can't go to the station. This is, of course, a different view of them, and this is what I love. If you make it fun, if they think it's fun, oh my God, the stuff that these kids come up with. I mean, they share so many things. And I did tell them that they were going to be presented in this conference, so they were all excited about it. I'm thinking maybe that's why they're laughing, but it's amazing. They actually also can select if they want the entire class to be part of it, or they select a small group. And the other ones were in this ones, they didn't want the entire class. They selected their audience because they had particular questions they wanted to ask those audience members. So, like I said, it's student led. I really don't create anything. The first podcast, however, it is guided as well. And it's got to be something that they're going to tell incoming sixth graders for next year. So my incoming sixth grader this year, they already have podcasts waiting for them. And the kiddos will talk to anything about joining a club. The one I love, attendance matters. They need to ask for help. Always ask your teachers, if there's the ability of or the chance of turning in late work or work for extra credit. I said anything you can think of that will help an incoming fifth grader, an incoming sixth grader be less stressed about becoming a middle school. And of course, I do give them a time limit, 5 to 6 minutes in length. How I merge all three, of course, like I said, I do it through my rotation stations. My stations are set up like this the entire year, and I actually have numbers hanging from my ceiling. I do create a board where they know what rotation they're going to be in. One thing that I really, really wanted to focus on is that the stations of the day, they must be the skill of the week. So when you do your rotations, even for PBL, we try to incorporate the skill. If we're doing inferencing, well, then the skill they're learning in the PBL, they need to infer a lot. So they create little journaling, or they create task cards, or anything that they can demonstrate to me that they're actually integrating that skill. If it's making connections, inferencing, main idea, or the supporting details. I do integrate a lot of my writing in the PBL because that was a big one last year that they started testing. Station 2, of course, and I'll just show all my sections. Station 3, once I let them go after the first one, it's all student led. So I give them what they need. If they need something else, there's only one captain leader that can come interrupt me, and that one comes and advocates for that group that's currently there. Once I okay it, then they know where all my resources are. So it's really student led. Like once they know what they need, they don't even come, bother me here in station 4, because this one, they know that I'm working directly with my students and it needs to be like 0 interruptions. So once they learn the hang of it, and it only takes like about 3 or 4 times for them to go through that rotation, and then they already know what all the resources are, and they're readily made available, so they really don't come and ask. But they know that only that one captain can go, or they can designate somebody to be the resource leader, and they go and they grab whatever they need. Station 3, which is the one that I love, it's PBL. Or they do the short passages, which is where they found the one for the Great Pacific Patch, and then they did a whole project on it. Or they create a research topic. So station 6 is the one that we utilize in our district, and I know that our district uses a lot of this ones. New Zealand's one of my favorite. There is Education Galaxy that I incorporate in there. Education Galaxy is not free for middle school, however. I've been trying to get it in middle school, but because I loved it in elementary. I used to be an elementary teacher. And I loved it in my classroom, but since they haven't purchased it, that one I do pay for. Edulastic is something we might pick up this coming year for assessments. And of course, Edpuzzle, all of these ones are basically free that we can use. Nearpod is something that I used to create things for them or lessons for them, but then I allowed them to use, create collaborative boards so they can create anything that they want to create on there. So then if you're ready to get funded, this is my next one. This is how they start a project, the planning stage, the focus board. They go and they have to take pictures of all of this, and they submit it to EcoRice. And then, of course, EcoRice gets them the funding. We get one of those certificates. They use a lot of Google Earth to show them where exactly they're going to build. Where this one was the one for the air purifiers. So they actually went in there and they measured through Google Earth how much square footage was going to be impacted with the air purifiers, and then they actually went in there and measured with measuring tapes just to make sure that if they were off or not with Google Earth. So that's pretty amazing. This kiddos went in there. They did a lot of research comparing our district to the second biggest district now, which is Edinburgh ISD. Edinburgh ISD actually beat us like with 5 kiddos, so it's not that much of a difference. They looked at their attendance records, our attendance records since 2017. And then, of course, they created a survey that they actually, during lunch, they do not do it through my class. My kiddos will leave their phones in my cell phone jail that this third and fifth class period. And they go to fourth period, then lunch, then they come back to me. So during my pet peeve is them having that cell phone out in lunch. So I create something where they don't need the cell phone. They actually have to discuss and talk to their neighbors. So a survey is amazing. So they're sitting next to, and I tell them every day, you got to sit next to somebody different. So they'll go through the survey and they'll ask teachers, they'll ask the cafeteria people, they'll ask administrators, they'll ask the librarian, they'll ask another students, and they compile all this data, and then they create a survey of what the students wanted, what they want changed in the campus, how the air purifiers would work or would help, if anybody has any respiratory issues. This one actually got 100% funded through Donors Choose. This one, what was this one? This one was another one. This one was, what was this one? You see, I forget. This one was sustainability learning. We asked for some equipment, I believe. The students asked for, I think it was the pavers, and it was the tools, and it was hanging gardens, and it was different things that they had asked for, and Loft actually funded 100% of it. This one is another one for the soil sampling when they actually partnered up with Texas A&M, and that's when they decided to do the gardening one. And then, of course, they have to demonstrate everything. What are they going to do? What is the type of soil that they're going to use? What do they want to grow? How are they going to use recyclable projects for EcoRice? If they see that you use a lot of recyclable projects that we in turn would throw away, that will blow them out of the water. Like it'll be like, oh my God, we love that you use the water bottles and stuff like that. So they actually were able to grow. We included our inclusion kiddos in here, and they were able to grow some beans, and they grow cabbage, they grew squash, tomato. We did not get the garden going, so the kiddos actually had to take it home and grow it at home. This next year, I'm hoping that it'll get going, but this is what they wanted to create. I mean, this kiddos even put a chicken coop. And I said, guys, let's let them, at least let us plant a couple of plants. So we'll see this year. So then that's basically my presentation. I don't know if y'all have any questions or want to say anything. I do have all of this and I have it linked. Like I said, Ms. One of my Eco Rice Ambassador partners or peers, um, Miss Denise from PSJA North, she is giving an eco rice training or an eco rice session on how to get funded and all the things that you have to do. But I also linked how to enroll on there, and it's very, very easy. The fastest way to get funded through them is for all of it to be student led. Like if they see that the teacher kind of did a lot of the work, well then it won't get rejected, but they'll give you less money. So that's basically mine. I know that at the end we do have a session survey. I can link the session survey. I don't know if it'll let me. I can share the presentation with you all. Let me see. Save the link, copy address link. Paste. That one will be for the end of this survey. Of course, you always want to go see the door prices. In my actual presentation, and thank you for asking that, because in the actual presentation, a lot of these things have links on them. So like if you want to see how I integrate, what's the, like this ones, you can actually listen to their podcasts and what they're saying. The air pollution one, I loved it. One of the kiddos actually went in there and said, they were discussing about how a lot of our kiddos are asthmatic or they have respiratory issues. And one of the kids said, yes, and that's what we're here to work on today. And another one said, I know, but that's very good, guys. And then they're like congratulating each other and saying, oh my God, we did so good. And it's something that they did on their own. So I said, you know what, I'm going to leave it in there because I love that part of it. Like they don't need for me to give them affirmations anymore. They give themselves affirmations. So I love those things. So all of those things have links. Some of the other stuff also like all of that has links. So I'll share it with you all. Let me see. I think I can just share it like this. I believe, share this page, copy link. And I think I opened it for everybody. If not, I'll go back in there and I'll open the link. But if y'all have any questions, I did insert at the end my email. Y'all can always reach me through Teams. Through Teams if you have any, what does it want to go on? If y'all have any questions on anything or how I integrate anything, if y'all ever want to start a Teams meet and you want to see how I actually do the rotations or how I integrate sustainability, how my kids podcast, how I set up the classroom, by all means, reach out to me through Teams and I'll create something for y'all. We'll do it sometime. Then my kids love to get recorded. They love to be they like to be scrutinized.